Welcome back. Before we dive in, I just wanted to let you know that what you're about to hear or watch is the replay of a live masterclass I recently ran for my community. It was created especially for women who've been thinking about addressing the real root causes of stubborn weight, or even thinking about it, when something's been on your mind for a while, but life keeps getting in the way. In this session, I unpack the biggest myths around weight loss for women over 40, why traditional approaches fall short, and what it really takes to shift weight in a way that actually lasts without wrecking your hormones or your sanity in the process. It's one of the most powerful trainings I've done, and I didn't want you to miss out. So I'm sharing the replay here on the podcast on YouTube for you to catch in your own time. Let's dive in. All right. Well, I would just say again, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. Here is my promise to you. I'm going to show you the simplest, science-backed way to feel confident in your own skin without rebound weight gain or restrictive dieting that's failed you in the past. So we're going to unlearn the outdated weight loss myths that keep women stuck and discover how to work with your body, not against it, so that you can finally see lasting results. So hopefully that sounds good to you. Now, I know that your time is valuable, so let's make sure that this session is for you. Tell me in the chat, are you tired of trying new plans only for them to be ineffective or unsustainable? Do you feel like the more you read and research, the less you feel like you know about what on earth you're supposed to be eating? Are you sick of trying really hard and not seeing any progress ever since turning 40? Are you overwhelmed by all of that misinformation out there and the bombardment of conflicting ideas? And do you feel like you've tried everything and you don't know which way to turn? If this feels true, you're in the right place. Drop a yes in the chat if this sounds familiar. Jackie said yes to all of them. Okay. And if anyone wants to share a bit more about, what's going on for you, then please let me know. Drop it in the chat. I'm always curious to know what you've tried and where you're stuck. So feel free to expand. Okay. Lisa said yes, totally. Yeah, lots of you saying yes. Okay. Now, I'm very familiar with this struggle because my team and I have worked with hundreds of women who felt the exact same way. And I see you do what you're supposed to do. You clean up your diet, you manage your portions, you move your body, but nothing seems to work. And the frustrating truth is this: the weight loss industry is built on flawed, outdated research. And, that's research that is mostly based on men's bodies. And we're not just men's bodies with boobs. Our physiology is very different. And that means that, our needs are different as well. And also, you've been conditioned to believe that eating less and exercising more is the answer. But that approach doesn't work for women in midlife. And I'll show you why. And, if you feel like your body is broken, it's not. But the approach to weight loss that you've been taught is. Jackie said, I've put on 3 stone going through menopause and I can't shift it. Yeah, that's a really common experience to kind of gain weight out of nowhere during this time and to feel like nothing that you do works. And you're going to understand today why this is happening. Chris said, me too, even though my diet is healthier. Yeah, lots of women clean up their diet when this starts to happen, but find that it doesn't seem to do anything. When perhaps in years gone by, you might have cleaned up your diet or cut back on the junk and, the weight comes off relatively easily. Lisa said, totally feel your pain, Jackie. Yeah, you're all experiencing the same thing. As I say, really common issue. So the old eat less, move more strategy is ineffective for women over 40 because, firstly, restricting calories repeatedly slows down your metabolism. So, while dieting, let's just call it dieting because, although it means different things to different people, it's just easier to refer to it as dieting when we're talking about this kind of more restrictive calorie counting, point counting approach to managing your weight. Okay. So, whilst dieting can help you to lose weight initially, because your metabolism slows down as a result, weight ends up going back on. It's almost inevitable. And to add insult to injury, hormonal changes in your 40s and beyond, they shift how your body responds to food and exercise. So what may have worked before no longer will, because these hormone changes impact how your body processes food and responds to stresses. Popular programs like Slimming World, Weight Watchers, Zoe, and even weight loss injections, they only address the surface level issue, the amount of fuel coming in. But, that's like putting less fuel in your car to try and fix a fault in the engine. It doesn't address the underlying issue that's causing the problem. And, if you're anything like my clients, when they first come to me, you're a smart, disciplined woman who eats pretty well and stays active, but nothing's worked because your metabolic and hormonal health hasn't been addressed. Andrea said, I eat well and I don't eat lots of rubbish and my weight seems to be increasing. Yeah, so you're experiencing the same thing. So today I'm going to show you the simplest way to wake up every day and actually look forward to picking out an outfit, knowing that you're going to feel amazing in your clothes. To eat in a way that feels good and supports your long-term health so that you age well. To stop dieting before every holiday, to set a positive example for your kids, if you have them, and, positively influence their relationship with food. And finally, feel comfortable and confident and sexy in your own skin. Which of these is most important to you? Let me know in the chat. Which one is kind of the closest to what you want to achieve for yourself? Or maybe there's multiple ones and you can just drop a number in the comments to represent the ones that kind of resonate most with you, if you like. Or if there's something else that's motivating you, I'd love to hear that too. Okay, Chris said 2 and 5. Okay, eat in a way that feels good. I'm feeling comfortable. Great. Yeah, Evelina said 2 and 4. Lolly said 1 and 3. Lisa said number 5 is the most important, and then the rest, yep, makes sense. Andrea said 1 and 5. Rachel said all of the above. Yeah, that's fine if it's all of them. Absolutely. Okay, great. Interesting. Alison said all of them. Okay. Well, before we go any further, let me introduce myself properly, because if we haven't met yet, then you might be wondering what on earth is going on. So I'm Louise. I'm a BANT registered metabolism nutritionist, and I'm the founder of the Nourish Method to Lasting Fat Loss and host of the Thriving Metabolism podcast. So I help women over 40 to repair their metabolisms and balance their hormones so that their bodies can burn fat efficiently without giving up their favorite foods or their social lives. And yes, I know, I confess, I'm not over 40 myself, but after more than a decade of working with women just like you, I have mastered what works. Back when I started, I used conventional weight loss strategies and they failed my clients. And really, that led me on a deep dive into the real science behind women's metabolisms. And now, after working with hundreds of women, I know exactly what does work. And if you take one thing from today, let it be this: you're not struggling with your weight because you're lazy or you lack willpower, or you're not trying hard enough, or your struggles are not a personal failure, and they don't define your ability to achieve your goals. You could be eating better than 90% of people and still not see results if your metabolism isn't working properly. This isn't about discipline, it's about understanding the internal systems at play and really giving your body what it truly needs. Women's physiology changes after 35, and it makes the traditional dieting strategies counterproductive. What worked in your 20s and 30s is no longer effective, and pushing harder with the same approach will only leave you feeling more frustrated and disheartened. Diets don't just fail you, they actually set you up to fail. They wreak havoc on your metabolism and your hormones and your relationship with food. Now, the good news is there is a better way, and one that aligns with your body's unique needs rather than fighting against them. And that is exactly what I'm here to share with you today. First, let me introduce you to Suzanne. Now, she is a woman just like you who is doing everything right, but she couldn't shift her stubborn weight. She ate well, she followed every diet she could find, and she exercised regularly. But no matter how disciplined she was, the scales refused to budge. So, of course, she was frustrated, she was doubting herself, and so she came to me looking for answers. And what we uncovered changed everything. When we ran advanced metabolic and hormonal testing, we found four major areas of imbalance that were sabotaging her weight loss efforts. First of all, oxidative stress. Her body was under constant stress at a cellular level, and that led to accelerated aging and disrupted fat burning. Then we also looked at her mitochondrial dysfunction, and we're going to talk more about this later, but her cells weren't efficiently converting food into energy, and that made her metabolism sluggish. Then we had toxic overload. So chemicals and pollutants were disrupting her hormone function and making it impossible for her body to let go of excess weight. And we're going to talk more about this later as well. And then she also had impaired methylation. Now, this is a critical biochemical process, and it was malfunctioning, impacting everything from detoxification to fat storage. Now, you can also see here that Suzanne had some digestive imbalances with elevated yeast markers, specifically Candida. And this is significant too. Now, your gut is linked to the elimination of your hormones, your nutrient absorption, inflammation levels, toxic load, and much more. So it was really important that we address this too. So instead of putting Suzanne on yet another restrictive diet, we took a tailored, science-backed approach that addressed these underlying imbalances. We supported her liver detox pathways to eliminate toxins more efficiently. We worked on balancing her blood sugars and her hormone levels naturally. We fine-tuned her nutrient intake to fuel her body properly, and we adjusted her exercise routine to complement her changing metabolism. So within 4 months, Suzanne lost 2 stone or 28 pounds without excessive dieting or grueling workouts. And more importantly, she felt energized and confident and finally in control of her body again. This transformation is possible for you too. It's not about cutting out more or burning more calories or spending more time in the kitchen. It's about being more strategic with the approach that you're taking and getting in tune with your own unique needs. So let's get into it. For decades, we've been told that weight loss is all about calories in versus calories out. Burn more calories than you consume and the weight will drop off, right? If only it were that simple. The truth is, your body is not a basic maths equation. Your metabolism is influenced by multiple factors, including hormones, stress levels, sleep quality, gut health, and even your past dieting history. And, if you followed a strict diet only to see zero movement on the scales, or worse, even weight gain, this is why your body adapts to restriction by slowing down your metabolism, making it harder to lose weight. Now, as I've said, fat burning isn't just about calories, it's about hormonal balance. And one of the most powerful factors influencing whether you store or burn fat is your blood sugar hormones. So, when you eat, your blood sugar rises, and that triggers the release of insulin. Now, insulin's job is to move sugar into your cells to be used for energy. But when there's excess sugar, it gets stored as fat. And that means that if insulin is high, your body is locked in fat storage mode, no matter how few calories you eat. And then glucagon is another hormone, and it actually works opposite to insulin. It signals your body to break down stored fat and use it for energy. But for glucagon to do its job, insulin levels must be low. So, this is why balancing blood sugar is key to sustainable fat loss. So, it's not just about cutting calories, but ensuring that your body is set up for fat burning. Now, inside your cells, you have tiny energy factories called mitochondria. Now, these convert food and stored fat into energy when it's needed, or they store away excess fat when there's a surplus. But as with any factory, for these metabolic factories to run efficiently, they need the right tools to complete the fat burning process. They need enough staff to keep the production running, and they need a supervisor to set the pace. So that supervisor is your thyroid. Your thyroid controls the metabolism speed, okay? It controls how fast you're fat burning. So if your thyroid is under functioning, even slightly, fat burning slows down. And that means that even with balanced blood sugars and a calorie deficit, your body may still struggle to burn fat. Okay, let me say that again. Even if you're in a calorie deficit, so burning more than you're consuming, and even if you've got those blood sugars balanced, you may still not be able to burn fat efficiently. So let me give you an analogy. I like an analogy because I'm quite a visual person. So blood sugar hormones, insulin and glucagon, these are like the steering wheel of a car. They determine whether you're in fat storage mode or in fat burning mode. They determine what direction you're going in. And then the thyroid hormones, they're like the accelerator and the brake. They control how fast or slow fat burning happens. And the calories, well, they're just the fuel, really. They're the energy source that your body uses. So, whilst we're talking about thyroid imbalances can occur at any age, but they do become far more common during perimenopause and after childbirth. So, if you've been doing all the right things, but still struggling with your weight, your thyroid may be slowing down. Now, many women struggling with stubborn weight will often go to the doctor, they'll get tests done, and then they'll be told everything's normal. Yet they still don't feel right. And, here's the problem with that. Basic testing is really what you get when you go to the doctors, and it's only looking for disease. Your doctors typically run very limited thyroid tests, and they are designed to diagnose disease, not to identify the subtle imbalances that impact your metabolism. And in the Nourish method, we often see women who have been told that their thyroid's fine, yet with our more advanced testing, it really shows otherwise. And, what's considered to be normal is very debatable. The thyroid experts agree that optimal function looks very different to what's labeled as normal on standard tests. Many women with borderline results are often simply told to wait until it gets worse before any action is taken, which just isn't good enough. And, if an underactive thyroid is detected, the conventional treatment often just provides a quick fix, like medication, but it doesn't address why your thyroid is struggling in the first place. Without fixing the root cause, thyroid function will continue to decline over time. So if you've been told that your thyroid's normal or you're on medication but you're still struggling, just know that your thyroid may not be optimal. And that's a big deal because optimal thyroid function is critical for the speed of your metabolism. Okay, so we've covered insulin and the thyroid hormones, and these are the really heavy hitters when it comes to fat metabolism. But they're not the only ones influencing fat burning and fat storage. So let's talk about some of the other key players. Estrogen. Now, this is a real metabolism disruptor. Estrogen has a complex relationship with your metabolism. When it's out of balance, it can drive insulin resistance, and that leads to chronically elevated insulin and blood sugar levels, which locks the body into fat storage mode. And then testosterone, whether it's high or low, testosterone can also drive insulin resistance, making fat loss harder. And it can also drive inflammation, which again drives stubborn weight. And then there's cortisol, the troublemaker that no one invited. Cortisol is your stress hormone, and it can single handedly sabotage your fat loss by raising your blood sugars and your insulin, promoting fat storage. It can also break down muscle, slowing down your metabolism, and it can keep your body in fight or flight mode, which again blocks fat burning. So it's not a nice combination. So, all of these hormones are interconnected, which is why simply eating less and exercising more isn't the answer. Balancing these hormones is key to unlocking sustainable fat loss. Being in a calorie deficit does nothing to fix these hormone imbalances. In fact, it can make them worse. So if you feel like you're doing everything right, but you still aren't seeing results, this is why. Is this making sense? Let me know in the comments. And, if you're wondering why this is only a problem now when it wasn't in the past, don't worry. I'm going to explain that next. Okay, good. Yes, it's coming through. Glad it is all making sense. Okay. So, how does women's physiology change after the age of 40? It's a general trend, but for some women, it starts as early as 35, whilst for others, they might not notice issues until more like 45 or closer to menopause. But overall, here's what tends to happen. From around the age of 35, estrogen and progesterone begin to shift and they decline as your body moves towards menopause. This change is usually very gradual, but it can be more sudden if you have had a hysterectomy or hormone suppression treatment. So, as your ovaries slow down, your adrenal glands, which are also the glands that produce stress hormones, they take on the extra job of making your sex hormones. Okay. So, your adrenals really take over from your ovaries to a certain extent. And this has a big impact. It actually makes you far less resilient to stress, making it much easier for stress to disrupt your fat burning hormones. And also, estrogen is important to help maintain muscle mass. So, as it declines, muscle mass decreases. And muscle is very metabolically active. It burns calories all the time. And less muscle means a slower metabolism and fewer calories burned, even at rest. So, to summarize this change, your metabolism slows down and your body becomes hypersensitive to stress, which, as you know, is a major blocker to weight loss. So, again, this is why diets that used to work in your 20s no longer work in your 40s, because the real issue isn't just how many calories you eat, it's how your hormones are changing. So, this is Rebecca. She came to me really frustrated and fed up. She was exercising 3 times a week, eating lighter, and even working with a personal trainer who was pushing her pretty hard, but the weight still would not budge. And like many women in perimenopause, Rebecca felt like her metabolism had fallen off a cliff. And, that's because it wasn't just about the food and exercise. Her hormones were really signaling her body to cling on to fat. So, after assessing Rebecca's health, we uncovered 3 major roadblocks to weight loss. First, blood sugar dysregulation. So, this is her blood sugar assessment. Her glucose and insulin were both higher than optimal. And as you now know, when your blood sugars and your insulin are high, the body cannot access fat stores for energy. So, this was a major reason why, despite her efforts, Rebecca's body wasn't responding. And earlier, we talked about how your standard doctor's tests often miss subtle imbalances. And in Rebecca's case, this was a perfect example of this. Her TSH and T4 were normal. These were the only markers that her doctors tested. She was told that her thyroid was fine and that she just needed to try harder to lose the weight. But what they missed were several other key markers that were below optimal, and that's a big deal. Even slight thyroid imbalances can lead to weight loss resistance, fatigue and low energy, cravings, and blood sugar instability. So while Rebecca was being told that she was normal, her body was literally fighting against weight loss at a metabolic level. So, this is why the deeper testing matters, because when your thyroid isn't fully optimized, no amount of dieting or exercise is going to get you the results that you want. Now, let's look at Rebecca's inflammatory markers, which are known to block weight loss and disrupt hormones. Several of these were elevated too. And yet her doctors told her everything was normal. She was eating healthy and she was exercising more than most. She was pushing for a bigger calorie deficit, working harder, eating less. But the problem was no amount of dieting or exercise was going to fix those hormone imbalances, the blood sugar dysregulation, or the inflammation. Her body wasn't burning fat because her hormones were signaling it to hold onto it. And worse, the calorie deficit actually triggered a famine response. When the body senses chronic undereating, it slows down fat burning even further because it thinks that food is scarce and it needs to protect itself and hold on to resources. So I'm curious, how many of you have been told by your doctors that everything's normal, even though you just instinctively know that there's something more going on? You don't feel right. You're not seeing the progress you would expect. You just know that there's more going on at a deeper level. Let me know in the comments if you've got those suspicions. And also, just one thing to mention is that, these are Rebecca's specific imbalances. Your body might be struggling with different ones, but the core issue is the same. Cutting calories does not fix hormone imbalances. And by the way, once we addressed these issues, Rebecca lost 14 pounds in 3 months. And she also experienced all sorts of other benefits. And one of the big ones was that she'd had chronic sinusitis for years, and that finally cleared up. And then when I checked in with her a few months later, she'd lost 17 pounds overall. No dieting, no restriction. Okay, lots of you saying yes about hearing this from your doctors. Chris said, my doctor just said, oh, what are we going to do with you? Yeah, how patronizing. Um, Andrea said, I haven't gone as I've got no faith in being dealt with properly. Yeah, I understand that. Ewelina said, doctors, they don't even want to do the normal tests. Wow, okay. Lisa said, this has happened to me with my thyroid when it was tested. Ugh, it's so frustrating. And Rachel said, I know my estrogen levels are low, but I suspect there's more going on. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, okay. Okay, let's move on. So, for decades, we have been told that it's greed and laziness that are to blame for weight gain. And thankfully, that outdated mindset is slowly shifting, and more people now recognize that there is so much more to it. Although, unfortunately, not every health professional has caught up. But now the blame has shifted to hormones. Everywhere that you look, online coaches, nutritionists, supplement companies, the message is clear. Your hormones are to blame. And yes, I have just explained how hormones do control fat burning and fat storage. But there is a big but. Hormone imbalances are still just a symptom. If your hormones are out of balance, the real question is why? Why are they out of balance in the first place? The menopause transition is completely natural, but stubborn weight gain and chaotic symptoms are not a natural part of that. It's the dysregulation in the body that makes menopause feel like an uphill battle. And, we can't make hormones the scapegoat because that implies that weight gain is an unavoidable part of menopause. And I can tell you from working with hundreds of women now that this simply is not true. You can balance your body and support your metabolism and lose weight without fighting yourself. So, I want to just take a moment to give you a quick science lesson because when you truly understand how hormones work, you'll see exactly what needs to happen to balance them and finally release stubborn weight. So, hormones follow a three-step process. Your body, firstly, needs to produce hormones, and they then need to get to where they're needed in the body. They need to travel and make it to your tissues and your organs. And then once they've done their job, you need to eliminate them efficiently. Okay, so let's start with step one, making hormones. So, to produce hormones, your body relies on proper digestion and nutrient absorption. And this means that you need a diverse, nutrient rich diet because without the right building blocks, your body simply can't make enough of the hormones that you need. So, before we even talk about balancing hormones, we have to make sure that your body is actually producing them in the first place. And now, let's talk about what needs to happen for them to actually do their jobs. So, if you think of vitamins and minerals as like factory workers, the factory workers of your body, just like a production line, it needs workers to connect different stages and keep things running smoothly. Your hormones need key nutrients to function properly. Without them, things slow down or just break down completely. But there are also hormone disruptors that can block this process. These act like roadblocks that prevent hormones from getting to where they need to go. And so some of those disruptors can include things like toxins, chronic inflammation, high stress levels, gut infections and food intolerances, nutrient deficiencies. So it's not just about making hormones, it's about ensuring that they're able to do their job effectively. And then once your hormones have done their job, your body needs to detoxify them and eliminate them. And that's where your liver comes in. Your liver is responsible for clearing out used hormones and toxins so that they don't continue circulating and causing imbalances. So if you think of like a bath that isn't draining properly, If the drain is blocked, all the soapy water and the dirt and the debris, it keeps swirling around instead of draining away. Well, the same thing happens in your body. If your liver's detox pathways are sluggish, hormones and toxins keep recirculating instead of being eliminated. And that causes further imbalances by disrupting other hormones. And it can contribute to symptoms like bloating, fatigue, mood swings, stubborn weight, sometimes things like headaches and migraines as well. So, as well as making the hormones and them doing their job, we also need to ensure that your body can effectively clear them out. And then once your hormones have been detoxed by the liver, they need to be eliminated from the body. And this final step is just as important as the rest. Your hormones are carried via your bile into the digestive tract for elimination. But if your bile is thick or sludgy, or if there are blockages in the biliary tree, this process can slow down, meaning that hormones aren't cleared efficiently. So, your gut plays a crucial role in hormone elimination. For hormones to be properly removed, a healthy balance of gut bacteria is required. It helps to prevent hormone reactivation. And then you also need to be having regular bowel movements. If you're not having a bowel movement daily, hormones can get reabsorbed and continue circulating. The takeaway here is that you have more control than you think. That was a really simplified version of the hormone journey, but the key point is that there's so much that we can do to influence hormone balance by supporting your gut and liver function, by reducing inflammation, optimizing nutrient levels, and managing stress. You can dramatically improve your hormone balance and metabolism. So, this is why diet and lifestyle and the internal chemistry of your body plays a huge role in weight loss and overall health. And I want you to know this because I know many of you may have been told that there's nothing that you can do to lose weight now that you're perimenopausal, menopausal, or postmenopausal, or maybe if you're premenopausal but living with other hormonal issues, maybe even diagnosed conditions like PCOS, endometriosis, or fibroids. You know, if you've been told that there's nothing that you can do to address your hormones or to address the issues that come with those stages or conditions, it's simply not true. By supporting your hormones, you can control fat loss without a ridiculous, unsustainable regime. It is absolutely within reach. It's not about cutting calories to extremes or blaming hormones. It's about how you support your body. The type of food you eat, the habits you implement, these directly impact your gut health, your nutrient status, your liver function. And when you get these right, your hormones will work for you, not against you. And that makes weight loss a happy, natural side effect. So, if you've ever felt like you're stuck because of your age, because of your hormones, or a diagnosis, I want you to know that you have more control than you've been led to believe. So, let me share Rachel's story. She actually came on my podcast recently to talk about her experience, and it's one that so many of you here will relate to. Rachel had been doing what many women do, eating well, staying active, following the rules, but she felt tired, she felt heavy, and just completely stuck. Her energy was gone, her joints were aching, and she was relying on hay fever medication just to get through the day. But when we did some functional testing, we found suboptimal imbalances that wouldn't show up on your standard blood tests. Things like adrenal stress and blood sugar dysregulation and nutrient depletion. Within just a few months, Rachel lost a stone, she dropped her dress size, and she lost 3 inches from her waist. And that included enjoying Christmas during her time in the program without missing out on any tasty treats or falling off the wagon. But more importantly, her sleep improved, her joint pain disappeared, her mood lifted, and she told me, I feel more alive, I feel lighter, and I can enjoy my evenings again. I'm not just dragging myself through the day and then collapsing on the sofa in the evening. And one of the most powerful shifts that she experienced was she realized that she wasn't a lost cause, she just needed the right support. Okay, moving on. It can feel like we just need to find that magic formula, the magical balance of macros, that magical calorie balance, the right meal plan, the right supplements, the right fasting schedule. And I'm guessing that as you're here, that stuff hasn't worked for you. And hopefully you're starting to understand why. What is greatly overlooked in the weight loss industry is the non-food factors that impact your weight. You could have an incredibly clean diet. You could be burning all the calories. You could be in a consistent calorie deficit. But if you're not sleeping properly, if you're chronically stressed, if your toxic load is high, if you have underlying infections or imbalances that are unresolved, you're not going to see weight loss, or certainly not weight loss that lasts. And, if you want to lose weight and keep it off long term, age well as optimize your energy and well-being in the process, we need to approach your weight loss strategy holistically. We cannot be one-dimensional and only focus on food and exercise, or, be sucked in by those magic fixes. So much of the wellness and weight loss world is built around the idea that there's one thing, a super supplement, a hormone balancing shake, a liver cleanse, a certain test or protocol that will fix your hormones and magically make the weight fall off. But your body doesn't work that way, especially after 40, when your system is more sensitive to stress and more reliant on deep recovery and more prone to storing fat under pressure. The real reason that these magic bullets don't work is that they're often only addressing one piece of the puzzle and ignoring the real whole life contributors to hormonal imbalance and metabolic slowdown. You can't out supplement, out cleanse, out biohack a lifestyle that's keeping your nervous system and your metabolism on red alert. You could be doing everything right on paper, eating clean, taking your supplements, hitting your workouts. But if the deeper foundations aren't there, if your body's inflamed, stressed, overloaded, your weight loss will stall. Or worse, it will come off temporarily and then come straight back. This is the part that most plans completely overlook. So, the women that I work with, they're not lazy. They're not doing it wrong. They're just using the tools that only scratch the surface. The real solution, it isn't a product or a protocol or a plan that you found on Instagram. It's a comprehensive, tailored approach that looks at your full picture, your hormones, your habits, your history, all of it. You don't need more willpower. You don't need another diet. You need a smarter, more sustainable strategy, one that actually supports your body as it changes. And when you have that, the results follow. Your energy comes back, your confidence returns. And that's exactly what I help women do inside my program. And I would love to show you how that works. So I'm going to take a couple of minutes to share how I can best help you. And then I'll give you that free gift that I mentioned at the beginning. And then we can move on to any questions and frequently asked questions. So the best way that I can help you really to apply what we've learned today and finally achieve lasting, life-changing results is through direct, personalized support. That's why we've opened a few spaces in our calendar for a weight loss breakthrough call. Now, this isn't just a consultation, it's a deep, tailored look at your situation, what's really holding you back and what steps will move you forward. You're going to leave knowing exactly why typical methods haven't worked, and what a personalized, sustainable strategy looks like for your body, your hormones, and your life. This call is for women over 40 who feel stuck despite doing or feeling like they're doing everything right. Because, you're not failing, you've just been given the wrong tools. And here's what I want you to ask yourself: how much longer are you willing to keep losing time, energy, and confidence to approaches that only scratch the surface? You don't have to stay stuck, but change starts with a decision to lead yourself into the life and the body that you deserve. If you're ready to stop the cycle and start your breakthrough, use the link below to book your call. So I'll pop it in the chat for you, and then you should see it pop up. So I'll pop the link in the chat. If you're watching the recording, then just scroll down below the video and you will see the link to book your call, or the little widget to book your call. So booking is simple. Pick a date, choose a time that works for you, and then confirm your details. Make sure you choose a time when you're going to be able to be fully present and focused. Now, spots are limited because of the depth of support that we provide. If you don't see a time that works, then just reach out and we'll do our best to accommodate you. You can reply to any text or email that I've sent you, and that'll land straight in my inbox. So on the call, we're going to help you get crystal clear on your personal goals and why they matter to you beyond the scale, the hidden obstacles that are sabotaging your progress and how to remove them, how to navigate real life challenges like social pressures, fatigue, and motivation dips, patterns of self-sabotage, and powerful strategies to overcome them. So you're going to leave this call with clarity, confidence, and a path forwards that feels doable and aligned, not punishing or overwhelming. Now, a quick note: this call is not for you if you're seeking a quick fix or a magic pill, if you're not ready to take ownership of your results, if you're unwilling to trust a proven process and be coachable. And that's okay. This call is reserved for women who are ready to change, who are committed to their long-term health, and who are open to doing things differently. This approach has changed hundreds of women's lives because when you commit to the right strategy, transformation follows. If you're ready to stop dieting and start thriving with an approach tailored to your body, your hormones, and your lifestyle, book your weight loss breakthrough call now. This call is for you if you want a tailored plan that works with your body, not against it. If you're tired of spinning your wheels, and if you want to understand metabolism, hormone health, and mindset in a practical, empowering way. If you're ready to step into the driver's seat of your health. Amazing. Nikki said she's booked. That's great to hear. So just a couple of questions that we often get at this point. What if I'm nervous because I failed before? Well, that's completely normal. Most of the women that I work with, they felt exactly the same way before they took the first step. What's different here is that we aren't going to shame you or tell you to try harder. We're going to show you how to finally work with your body, not against it. If you're feeling nervous, that's actually a really good sign. It means that this matters to you. And, by booking the call, you're already doing something different than before. You're seeking real support, not a quick fix. Excuse me. So what if I'm worried that this won't fit into my life? Again, I totally understand. It's a very common concern. This program isn't about turning your life upside down. It's about designing a strategy that fits into your life, not around it. On your call, we're going to talk about what's realistic for you, your schedule, your budget, your energy. So, any plan that we create feels doable and sustainable, not overwhelming. You don't have to be perfect to succeed, you just need the right support. And another question, is the call really free? What's the catch? Yes, the call is genuinely free. The purpose of the call is to help you get clarity on what's happening in your body, why you're stuck and what a real solution would look like for you. If we both feel like we're a right fit, we can talk about what that looks like, but there's absolutely no obligation. Either way, you're going to leave the call with real insight that you can use straight away. And one last one, what if I've tried everything? Can this really work for me? If you're here, it means that you haven't given up, and that's powerful. Most of the women that we help have tried dozens of diets and doctors and plans before finding real lasting success with us. The reason it finally works is because we don't treat you like a formula. We treat you like a unique person with your own metabolism, hormones, and life. If you're willing to show up, we'll meet you there with a strategy that's built around you, not a one size fits all plan. You're not too stuck, you just haven't had the right support yet. If this feels like the right next step for you, don't wait. Our calendar does fill up fast, and we want to make sure that you get the support that you need without the delay. So remember, there's zero pressure on the call. If we're not a right fit, we'll still make sure that you leave with clarity and direction. So imagine having the energy, confidence, and the vitality that you deserve instead of the endless frustration. Imagine having a plan that's designed specifically for your body and your unique needs. How much easier would that be? You've tried calorie counting, cutting carbs, working harder. And, it hasn't worked because it didn't address the real root causes. This is different. This is your breakthrough. So book your weight loss breakthrough call now. So Georgie said, I have multiple sclerosis, and due to the medication, my liver enzyme is elevated and hormones all over the place. Can you still help me? I don't like to make any claims without knowing the whole picture. But we've worked with many women with autoimmune conditions and who have been on, very strong medications, and 99% of the time we can absolutely help. So I would suggest booking a call, and then we can get the full picture and we'll be able to understand, exactly what's going on. If you can include in your booking form the medications that you're on, or you can send it separately if you prefer. And then we can assess where you're at and what we might need to do and how we may be able to help. Andrea said issues with B12 absorption also play a part in the issues. Yeah, absolutely. B12 is a vital nutrient. So if your B12 levels are low, it has a knock-on effect on lots of different processes in the body. But here's the thing, there's something that causes your B12 absorption issues. When you go to the doctors and you're told your B12 is low, you need supplements, you need injections, they never actually look into why your B12 is low. So we would be wanting to find out, why is your B12 low? If you're not vegan, then you should be able to get enough in your diet and absorb it properly. So if that's not happening, then we need to look at what's going on in the gut. Are you lacking intrinsic factor that you need to absorb B12? And then, if you've got issues with B12 absorption, the likelihood is that you've got issues with absorbing other nutrients too. So we want to look at the gut and see what's going on there so that we can optimize it. And that will have a real knock-on effect on everything else in your body, because the gut is absolutely central to the function of everything else in your body. So hopefully that answers your question. Okay, I can see a few of you have booked calls, which is really awesome. Thank you for putting up for me and my weird dry throat. Don't know why my throat's gone all strange. Alison, so me and my enrollment advisor both do the calls. So it's possible you might speak to me, but it's also possible you might speak to Lucy. Lucy has been working with us for 4 years or so. She knows the program inside and out. She's really, really good at helping to hook women up with the right solution based on their individual needs. So, yeah. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Just a reminder that every woman's journey is different. That's why I really built the Nourish Method, so that it's unique to you, to your body, to your needs, to your lifestyle. And, it is my mission to make lasting fat loss simple, empowering, and achievable so that you can thrive in every part of your life. If you have booked a call, then that's amazing. We cannot wait to speak with you and support you and help you step into your next chapter. That's so, so exciting. And yeah, thanks again and have a wonderful evening. We'll talk soon. Bye, everyone.